Then kill me.
Kill me say he playing but not playing with us.
Okay.
Fuck lah, my friends are hiring. Y'all can or not?
Is he pro? Later y'all call me noob here.
No, you're better than him.
Wah, his inventory got nothing. Give me join lah. Me. Help me.
In Toronto, there's a
Why he
basketball
add
fan
me?
like
You
no other.
stupid.
I breathe,
Yeah.
drink
I
everything about the Raptors basketball.
He's truly
My whole life is around
He's Kylie
the
Jenner.
Raptors season.
deeply
He was
For the
like,
last 22 years, I've never missed a game.
a Raptors superfan.
My name is Nabatia, and I'm Raptors superfan.
If you've watched any Raptors games in the last
guys can
decade,
invite more
maybe you've
people.
noticed the bearded man sitting courtside. Well, that's Nav, and his story
Why
starts
did
in
he
India and takes him right here to
they don't
Canada.
play with us.
Fleeing
they think we are
violence,
very
Nav
noob.
left and settled in Toronto. He worked hard, opened a very successful car dealership, and when the city got its own NBA franchise,
The Raptors arrived, and I bought my first 2 tickets.
Jason, I'll tell you something.
I enjoyed the game. I was cheering
You know this
the most
Kanye
in the
guy?
whole arena.
the team
He only
embraced him,
can-
and
he
being a
only can play
superfan has
last
its
two.
perks.
When the legend Kobe Bryant came for his last
Was
game
it
to
like
Toronto,
is
he
his
came
name,
to me and said, "Superfan,
forgot.
I want to thank
The
you
best of the
what
team.
you
Hey, where
have
you go?
done because you
Me.
have created a culture
What?
of bringing
Guardians of the
everybody
Galaxy.
together through this game of basketball."
He also gets to hang
Legit.
with Canadian
sorry.
royalty.
Bye.
I know Drake pretty well.
But what's most important about Nav's super fandom is that he represents the changing face of basketball fans around the world.
Basketball has changed my life tremendously. It has given me an opportunity to integrate my community, the South Asians, into the mainstream.
Nav may be the first Raptors superfan, but he wants everyone on board.
I want to see this game taking to the next level where all the communities, everybody, the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Muslims, everybody coming to the game.
A viral video released in early 2015 shows a young American Sikh boy being harassed on the school bus by other kids. One young girl points at him and chants, "Terrorist, terrorist." This event, and the videos spread online, serve to illustrate the general ignorance of Sikhism. So, who are the Sikhs? The Sikhs are a people from northern India who subscribe to the dictations of 10 important gurus. Their philosophy is encapsulated in the Guru Granth Sahib, which is the holy book of Sikhism. In general, Sikhs believe in one God, equality among all, freedom of religion, and community service. The Sikh religion is independent from the other major monotheistic religions, as well as Buddhism and Hinduism. Sikhs are well known for a few distinct physical attributes. Men usually wear a specific type of turban called a dastar, and both men and women often wear a steel or iron bracelet called a kura. A Sikh's uncut hair and the bracelet are 2 of 5 articles of faith that they are expected to wear at all times. The other articles include a wooden comb, cotton undergarments, and a stylized dagger. These 5 articles symbolize a Sikh's commitment to their faith. Sikhism originated in the 15th century.
Just be careful.
Following multiple instances of Islamic extremist terrorism, non-violent Muslims around the world began a movement to label Islam a religion of peace. Many say that distinct segments of the Muslim population advocate violence, but that at its core, Islam encompasses peace and pacifism. Still, although peace is preached in every religion, the manifestation of belief can sometimes be non-peaceful and oppressive. So what are the world's most peaceful religions? Well, most of the world's religious population falls into one of two categories: Western Abrahamic religions and Eastern Dharmic religions. Problematically, some scholars argue that all three major Western religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, are inherently violent. As they are all monotheistic and exclusive, non-believers are directly and implicitly considered at odds with religious doctrine. Despite preaching peace, numerous acts of violence have been committed in the name of God, Allah, and Yahweh throughout history. That leaves the Dharmic faiths. These are predominantly Eastern religions such as Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Hinduism has long been identified as non-violent, largely due to the influence of the pacifist Mahatma Gandhi. However, even within the religion, violence may be used to protect oneself or one's country. One Hindu god states that violence is necessary in the defense of justice and does not conflict with a spiritual life. And even Gandhi himself was killed by a fellow Hindu. A similar view is found in Sikhism. Violence is permitted when absolutely necessary, and historically, Sikhs have been oppressed, forcing them to fight back. After years of such oppression in India, Sikhs began wearing a small knife called a kirpan. It is one of the 5 mandatory articles of faith and is symbolically carried to defend themselves and others. But while Sikhs may have a good reason to be occasionally violent, it doesn't help make their case for being peaceful. Buddhism has always been pointed as one of the world's most peaceful religions. In order to fulfill one of their 3 most important tenets, Buddhists cannot harm any sentient living thing. Historically, Buddhist texts actively condemn violence, and the Buddha himself even states that soldiers who die in a killing mindset will have an unpleasant reincarnation. However, in practice, Buddhists have not always preferred nonviolence. In Myanmar, a predominantly Buddhist population has been violently oppressing a stateless Rohingya Muslim minority. Acts of violence by Buddhists are frequently based on political or cultural differences, and not specifically religion. This leaves us with Jainism. Although not as popular as the other religions mentioned, there are roughly 4.5 million Jains, almost exclusively living in India. Jainism advocates nonviolence and pacifism as a fundamental ethical principle. All violence is viewed as a form of self-injury, as it prevents one from reaching spiritual liberation. And unlike other religions, Jains believe nonviolence applies not only to
I lived in Mecca for a time and frequently visited the Grand Mosque. As a teenager, I sympathized with the Muslim Brotherhood. At 22, while my family was living in Kenya, my father arranged my marriage to a member of our family clan, a man that I had never met. I ran away, made my way to Holland, studied there, and eventually was elected a member of the Dutch Parliament. Now I live in the United States. In short, I have seen Islam from the inside and the outside. I believe that a reform of Islam is necessary and possible, and only Muslims can make that reform a reality. But we in the West cannot remain on the sidelines as though the outcome of this struggle has nothing to do with us. If the jihadists win and the hope for a reformed Islam dies, the rest of the world will pay a terrible price. The terror attacks in New York, London, Madrid, Paris, and many other places are only a preview for what's to come. For this reason, I believe that it's foolish to insist, as Western leaders habitually do, that the violent acts committed in the name of Islam can somehow be divorced from the religion itself. For more than a decade, my message has been simple. Islam is not a religion of peace. When I assert this, I do not mean that Islamic belief makes all Muslims violent. This is manifestly not the case. There are many millions of peaceful Muslims in the world. What I do say is that the call to violence and the justification for it are explicitly stated in the sacred texts of Islam.
I was born to hate Jews. It was part of my life. I never questioned it. I was not born in Iran or Syria. I was born in England. My parents moved there from Pakistan. Theirs was the typical immigrant story. Moved to the West in the hope of making a better life for themselves and their children. We were a devout Muslim family, but not extremist or radical in any way. We only wished the best for everyone. Everyone except the Jews. The Jews we believed were aliens living in stolen Muslim land, occupiers who were engaged in a genocide against the Palestinian people. Our hatred, therefore, was justified and righteous, and it made me and my friends vulnerable to the arguments of radical extremists. If the Jews were as evil as we had always believed, mustn't those who support them, Christians, Americans, and others in the West, be just as evil? Beginning in the 1990s, speakers and teachers at mosques and in schools began to endlessly repeat this theme.
Which is the most persecuted religious group in the world today? The answer, in terms of sheer numbers and sheer horror, might surprise you.